What's the problem?
Who designed this track? I cannot rest, even for a second. There is just one turn after the other. Unbelievable.
He's 35, he's enjoying it more than ever, and he is getting better and better. Michael Schumacher wins in Spain, and his 200th start, 10 out of 10 for Ferrari. Rubens Barrichello, that is the 18th 1-2 involving Schumacher and Barrichello for Ferrari. Excellent to see Jarno Trulli on the podium in the Renault, and Alonso in 4th place. The Renault continue that tradition. They have finished every Grand Prix this season. Sato, good drive from the Japanese driver, started 3rd, finishing 5th in the BAR. Ralf Schumacher 6th for Williams. Williams only scorer after Montoya's retirement. Fisichella, a couple of points for the Italian for Sauber, and Jenson Button certainly wanted more than that 1 point for BAR. 50 out of 50 after 5 rounds for Michael Schumacher. Barrichello now clear in 2nd place. Button was in the position to threaten him before the race. He has now dropped to 8 points behind Barrichello. Level pegging Alonso and Trulli. A really consistent season for those Renaults. Remember Flavio Briatore, the boss, saying next year will be our season. Montoya 6th in the Williams. Ralf Schumacher 7th. Sato moving up to 8th place for BAR, and David Coulthard down in 9th for McLaren, struggling again. Don't need me to tell you, really, he's going to top of that constructors do. Look at that, 40 points clear Ferrari of Renault. BAR 10 points adrift in 3rd. Williams a couple of points behind them. That's developing into a good scrap, and then way back in single figures, McLaren, Sauber and Jaguar. You called it right. Never much doubt in your mind that Michael Schumacher was going to win here.
Michael Schumacher is just in a class of his own. I mean, I don't think there's any other words that we can now use to describe him, Jim. We've used every one that's available in a dictionary. You know, there's just got to be somebody to catch him up, and I don't see it yet.
We'll be looking at 1 or 2 of the incidents in the race in just a moment, but now we go straight to the press conference.
Well, I had a good start.
Michael.
I watched in my mirrors, and suddenly I saw this blue Jarno Trulli flying on, and at that moment I still had the option to sort of close the door, but I thought with this much overspeed he's coming along, it would be not very fair, and I just left open the door and let him do what he was obviously superbly doing, and hoping that our car would allow to get by somehow. It was close a couple of times down the straight due to the heavy headwind. I got a very good tow, but it was never really close enough to go for an overtaking, so I really had to wait for our strategy, which worked superbly well.
Were you concerned when you were behind Jarno that perhaps you were losing time to other opposition, or were you about on the pace you wanted to run at that point?
No, certainly we were a bit slower than we probably could have run, as you had seen afterwards, the gap we were able to open. But the concern obviously was where would I fall into after the pit stops happening and who had how much fuel on. But actually, as almost everybody was on a rather short first stint, it didn't really matter that much.
And then you set fastest lap, and then it sounded as if your engine lost its edge. Was that perhaps an exhaust problem?
Yeah, indeed it was, and unfortunately it happened very early. The team noticed, I think, after the first pit stop in the 2nd stint it happened, and Ross came on the radio and said there's not very much we can do. We can just hope it will last, and he wasn't very optimistic while he was saying that. And knowing what an exhaust failure means usually, I wasn't very optimistic, so I just did what I was able to do in preserving as much as possible, and we drove it home. And that's a magnificent job the team is been doing in terms of reliability, and even with having such a problem, the car still makes it home to the finish, and that's exceptional, really exceptional. These guys, they're just so wonderful.
Did you actually reduce your revs?
I obviously preserved as much as I could, but there is only a certain amount you can do, honestly.
Thank you. Rubens, well, a great team performance. 3 pit stops, or 2 pit stops in your case, and Ferrari still 1-2. How was it from your point of view?
I think I had a great race. It was difficult at the start with a lot of cars running here and there, and but obviously I kept out of the problem, and I kept a good pace behind the others, because I was in such a heavy load, And now everybody can see that. You know, yesterday we were saying, oh, how much more you were behind Michael, but I had a good qualifying lap with that amount of fuel, really. So it was a good strategy. You know, to beat Michael today was my only chance was if Jarno kept him behind for a stop longer. I mean, that was really any of my hopes. Apart from that, it was a great race. The car was working well. Bridgestone has done a phenomenal job because our tires were really doing a fantastic job.
Congratulations. Jarno, let's talk about that start. It was just fantastic.
Right. I apologize for my voice. I have a very low voice. I really took a very good start. It was right on the limit of the jump start, but it worked out very well. I was doing my pace at the beginning, quite good. The car was reacting well, and obviously was keeping Michael behind me. He only took me when we pit. Obviously was quicker than me. As simple as that. And then I was pushing all the way through the race. Just after the last pit stop, I was controlling my teammate. It was a pretty good race. I'm pleased for me. Pleased for my team, my mechanics, the Renault team. But most of all, I'm pleased because I can dedicate this race to a friend of mine, Dino, which is, I'm sure, watching me on TV, because he has to do a very good battle, a very strong battle. We will battle all together, and I will bring him my trophy.
Dino's getting the trophy from Jarno Trulli then. The start, a little bit like Imola, wasn't it? Michael Schumacher was left, but once it got to the pit stops, he caught up. But brilliant from Trulli and that lightning Renault.
Yeah, the Renault's just unbelievable. I mean, it hooks up, gets traction, just drives by everybody, including Michael Schumacher. And Jarno's got a clear circuit there going into turn one. Didn't have the fireworks we all expected. Just watch it pick up. Look, sheer acceleration, slots in between the two guys. Montoya's lagging behind.
It never really happened, did it, that big scrap, because Montoya was so slow off the line?
Exactly that, Jim. Montoya just didn't get off the line cleanly. And we saw that magnificent start by Trulli, and I don't think anybody was really looking out for Trulli at that point.
Not the best race for the British drivers, but Button and David Coulthard had a little tussle. Remember last year, I think he was taken off, wasn't he, here, Jensen Button, anyway?
Well, these guys are great friends off the circuit, and it must have been a little bit tough for them to actually be competing against each other. But I think actually Jensen did a very, very solid job. It's not an easy circuit to overtake round here. You really do have to work hard. He just kept chipping away, 14th on the grid, ends up scoring a point. That's all going towards BAR's end of season tally.
It is so hard to overtake here. He'll be happy with 8th, won't he? And Rubens Barrichello, he told us before the start, don't worry, I'll be all right. He gambled with a two-stop strategy. It didn't quite come off. And he had a very, very poor pit stop, one of those two, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that really killed the race for him. Once he got into that pit stop, and they had several problems there trying to get that wheel secured. That really was the end of his race pace. But you know, Michael Schumacher yet again dominated by pulling out the couple of sectors on the in lap of his. And Rubens, yeah, the strategy was there for him to go with, but it just didn't work out.
What sort of race did you have? We asked Juan Pablo Montoya. Always knew it was going to be a nightmare. He said, I bet he didn't expect what happened to him, though, with that front tyre.
Well, he had that problem, Jim, but actually, you know, the race was actually finished for those guys, both Williams drivers, by the sounds of things, because brake issues. It looks like the team ran very small brake ducts to try and get less drag, so they were faster down the straights. Consequently, they overheated the brakes. Big issues for Montoya. Had to actually pit and get out of the race itself. And Ralf Schumacher complaining of the same issues come the end of it.
Brilliant from Michael Schumacher, even with a dodgy exhaust.
I just don't know how to explain this guy. He is a phenomenon. The problem is it's going to go all the way. It's like Arsenal. They're just beating everybody.
And you're a gooner as well, I know that. Thanks very much indeed, Mark. Tonight we have the highlights here from Spain at 11:45 ITV1. See that show ITV2 at 7 tomorrow evening. And before our next race, don't forget, Speed Sunday will keep you informed and entertained.
On next week's Speed Sunday, we have a diamond of a show for you. There's glitz and there's glamour as we preview the jewel in the F1 crown, the Monaco Grand Prix. NASCAR heads for the Golden State. California Speedway Place hosts to more extreme oval racing from those good old boys. No precious stones, but lots of gravel. It's all four-wheel drive in Cyprus. Extended highlights bring us up to date in the World Rally Championship. Can the Ruby Red Arden team shine again? The second round action from F3000 in Barcelona. And Silverstone is the venue for more panel bashing action as the British touring cars hit the track. So join us for another Speed Sunday afternoon next Sunday from 2 for all the latest news, gossip and gems of action from the world of motorsport.
Well, yes, as Matt says, in a fortnight, one of the great spectacles of the year, the Monaco Grand Prix through those streets of Monte Carlo. We have full coverage throughout that weekend. Whatever you do, do not miss it. And Michael Schumacher will go to the Principality of Monaco unbeaten. Formula One's magnificent Matador, extending his great run in Spain in his 200th start. Thanks for your company. See you in Monaco. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One,